All right, which Georgia Bulldog players on offense have the most pressure on them for the 2025 season? That's what we're going to talk about in today's video. There's a lot of guys that we're going to go over, but I'm not going to do a deep dive on the two obvious answers, right? Obviously, everyone knows that the quarterback has the most pressure on him, no matter who it is, year in and year out. So Gunnar Stockton obviously has the most pressure on him of anyone on offense. And yes, offensive coordinator Mike Bobo, although not a player, this video is about the players. Yeah, Mike Bobo has a ton of pressure on him this upcoming season. The offense cannot go backwards. It's up to Mike to get things situated, help get that run game going, help develop Gunnar Stockton. So yes, there's obviously a ton of pressure on Mike Bobo and of course Gunnar Stockton. But as far as skill position players go, offensive linemen, running backs, there's a lot of guys who I think have a lot of pressure on them to step up and make a really big impact this upcoming season. And I want to start at the wide receiver spot because Dillon Bell has a chance to get back into the good graces of Georgia fans. I thought that he was better in 2023 than he was last year. I thought he took a step back, but if you look at the production, he was more productive last year when they did not have Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey than he was obviously in year two when those guys were around. In 23, he caught 29 passes for 355 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also carried the ball 25 times for 157 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was a weapon. You could line him up all over the place, and they used him in a lot of different ways, and I thought he would take a big step forward in 2024. Now, he did catch more passes, had more yards, had more touchdowns, but his production at running back went down a little bit, but so did his play overall. He wasn't making those tough contested catches last year as he did in 23. The drops went up a little bit, and he just wasn't that go-to game changer type that I thought he could be last season. So while he was a little bit more productive, I thought his play overall went backwards. I think there's a lot of pressure on Dillon Bell to take a big step forward because Gunnar Stockton's going to need him. And I think there needs to be a plan for Dillon Bell outside of catching the football because he was inconsistent catching the football last year. I think that's safe to say. But when he has the ball, dude is dangerous, right? So they've got to find a way to allow him to make more plays. I think he's got a lot of pressure on him this year. Staying at wide receiver, Zachariah Branch, right? They went and got him out of the transfer portal because he is one of the fastest, most electric, most explosive players in all of college football. And there's a lot of pressure on him to possibly be a go-to game changer type of receiver, a guy that they didn't have last year, a wide receiver. So there is a lot of pressure on this transfer from USC, former 5-star, again, one of the most explosive players in the game, to have a giant season. And I think if you're Gunnar Stockton, when that news came in, that not only did they get Noah Thomas from Texas A&M, who was very productive last year, they got Zachariah Branch, right? A guy who can score from anywhere on the field on any particular play. I think Georgia knew they had to, add bigger, better pieces at wide receiver, and they did that. Now the expectations are going to be crazy high for both of those transfer portal additions, but specifically for Zach Branch because the hype around him out of high school was crazy. He caught 47 passes last year for 503 yards, just 1 touchdown. I think the expectation is that, he catches more than 47 passes, more than 503 yards. He's got to score more touchdowns, right? This is a guy that I don't know if he's as fast as Arian Smith. Might be close, but I think he's a more consistent pass catcher, and they're going to need him. No doubt about it. So I think there's a lot of pressure on an obvious 5-star, extremely fast, explosive player to be that game-changing guy that they can go to and can make a big play for them if the offense is kind of sputtering around a little bit and they're not clicking, not getting first downs. This needs to be a guy that they can go to and possibly score from 50, 40 yards out, right, and give them an explosive play. That's what they were missing a lot of last year. That's a guy who can bring that to them. So I think there's a lot of pressure on him to be that game-changing type of receiver. He's got the talent. There's no doubt about it. Got to get the job done. At tight end, it's got to be Oscar Delp again. He is a good player. I think he'll be one of the better tight ends across college football, even if he's only catching 20 to 30 passes for around 275, right? The production from 23 and 24 was similar. But as far as a leadership standpoint, this is going to be the second year in a row where this guy is one of the faces of the program. He's one of the leaders in the locker room. And that's where I think, he's got a lot of pressure on him to, be one of those guys in the locker room that everyone looks up to. I think he's done a great job of maturing and growing and being that leader type, because dude's been playing ever since he got to campus, right? He played a lot in 2022 as a true freshman, and he's made a lot of plays over the past 2 years. I expect him to make more plays on the gridiron, but I think there's a lot of pressure on him, to be the guy that a lot of people look up to. And this will be the second year that he's in that role. I think he's going to do great. And I think he is easily one of the leaders and, again, one of the faces of this program. So from that perspective, I think there's a lot of pressure on Oscar to be, this leader who, has a chance to lead them to another special season. We'll see if his production increases. I think it will. But absolutely, he's one of the leaders of this team, and he needs to continue that role. On the offensive line, got to start with Drew Bobo, right? He is the who I think is going to be the center. And, the offense starts at the center spot. If you don't have a strong, reliable guy who can open up some running lanes, right, at the center spot and kind of be the quarterback of the offensive line, you're going to really struggle. Cedric Van Pran, probably the best Georgia Bulldogs center in, program history. He's a big reason why they won 2 national championships. Now, I'm not saying Jared Wilson was bad last year, but I'm saying there's a lot of pressure on the center, no matter who it is, especially a new center. Drew Bobo, 6'5", 305. He appeared in all 13 games last year, so he's got some experience. This will be his 4th year in the program. He made starts against Auburn and Mississippi State, 2 bad teams, but those were 2 games where Georgia moved the football and put points up on the board compared to other games throughout the season. So I think Drew Bobo at center has a lot of pressure on him to, be a dependable guy along that offensive line. And his name's Bobo. So obviously, if he plays really, really well, people are going to look over it. If he gives up a sack, gets blown backwards on a couple run plays, everyone's going to have no problem jumping down his throat and criticizing him. That's just what comes with having that last name. But we'll see how he plays. There's a lot of pressure on him, no doubt about it. Staying on the offensive line, Monroe Freeling, left tackle, right tackle. I don't exactly know who's going to be that left tackle, whether it is Monroe Freeling or Ernest Green, who, has played a lot of left tackle himself, but so is Monroe, who played there against Notre Dame, and it wasn't pretty, right? He got beat a good bit, but I know the staff is very high on him. 6'7", 315. He's got the tools. He's just got to keep improving time after time. And if quarterback is the most important position on the team, on the field, especially on offense, center and left tackle are the next 2 up. Probably left tackle, then center. So, at Georgia, where they just turn out elite left tackles year after year after year, just look in the NFL, what they've been able to do, it's almost left tackle university. And so if he's the left tackle, he's got to play better than he did against Notre Dame. And if he doesn't, and Gunnar Stockton's running for his life and can't depend on the left tackle week after week, it could get ugly. So yeah, no matter who the left tackle is, there's a ton of pressure to play to that standard and to keep the quarterback upright. And if it's Monroe Freeling, which I think it absolutely could be, yeah, the pressure's going to be there. He appeared in all 13 games last year, started 4. So again, he's got some experience. And if he continues to improve and get better, they're going to need him in a big way to man down that left tackle role. So a lot of pressure on Monroe Freeling in his 3rd season this upcoming fall. And then I hate to say it, but Nate Frazier's got a lot of pressure on him too, because right now it's him and a bunch of question marks at running back. So he's got to get some help, but it's going to be him and then kind of a gap and then everyone else. It doesn't appear that there's this 2-headed monster at running back that Georgia normally has, needs to have, whatever you want to say. But it can't be Nate Frazier and then everyone else. Someone has to emerge, but there's a lot of pressure on Nate Frazier to, continue, to take a step forward, because he was really good last year as a freshman, playing against outstanding defenses almost on a weekly basis. He flashed big playability, and you saw exactly why he was an elite running back prospect out of California. The kid can run, he can play. I think he's going to have a really, really good season. But again, he's got the pressure all on him, right? If you're the running back at the University of Georgia, there's always eyes on you. There's always pressure. There's always a standard that you have to play to. But he needs some help. And that's why I say a lot of pressure is on him, because we don't know who the number 2 is, right? You can't expect anything from Branson Robinson because he hasn't done anything in 2 years. due to injury. I get it, but you can't expect him to make an impact. Roderick Robinson was out all last season, right? He played a little bit and flashed as a freshman, but the turf toe held him out basically the entire year last year. So it's not like you can expect him to come out and be this bowling ball type of a back that I thought he would be last year. I thought both of them, if they were healthy, could have really impactful seasons. As it turns out, neither one of them did. So you can't expect them to have an impact in 2024. You can be hopeful, but it's hard to expect those guys to come back, great, healthy, and, at their best. It's just, you can't do it. We'll see if Chauncey Bowens emerges. I don't know if he's a game changer. Dwight Phillips Jr., still probably a gadget weapon type. That's not a guy who needs to be running, up the middle through the trenches. A little smaller, obviously. He's electric. He's explosive. But I don't think you can play him at traditional running back. So there's a lot of question marks after Nate Frazier. So there's a lot of pressure on him as well. And yes, I need to say it again. There's a lot of pressure on Mike Bobo. If you didn't hear me say it the first time, I know the comment section is going to blow up. Doesn't matter unless Mike Bobo's there, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, he's got a lot of pressure too. But the offense is more than the coordinator. The players got to do their job as well, and Mike's got to do his. There's no doubt about it. A lot of people on offense have a lot of pressure on them this spring and going into the fall. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the website.